Hey, ladies and gentlemen, this is Miss I'm here to read and teach you Act 5, Scene 1 of Romeo and Juliet. So the scene opens with Romeo in Mantua, because remember, he's hiding out, and he basically describes a dream that he's had. Now, remember, Romeo's last dream, we know, was he dreamed that the night he met Juliet would be the beginning of his death. Here he has another dream that also indicates his death, and he says, and on this day, an unaccustomed spirit lifts me above the ground with cheerful thoughts, because he's thinking of Juliet. I dreamt my lady came and found me dead. Strange dream that gives a dead man leave to think, and breathed such life with kisses in my lips that I revived and was an emperor. Okay, so he essentially starts off the scene talking about how he's had this foreboding of his death. Then Romeo's man, that means like his servant and friend of the family, Balthazar, shows up, and he's like, "Oh, right, news from Verona. How now, Balthazar? Dost thou not bring my lady's letter from the friar? How is my lady? Is my father well? How is Juliet? That I ask again, for nothing can be ill if she be well," meaning nothing can be bad if my love is good. Okay, so Balthazar is feeling not quite able to tell him, but then just cuts right down to the chase and says, "Then she is well and nothing can be ill. Her body sleeps in the Capel's monument, and her immortal part with angels lives," meaning she has ascended into heaven and sits with the Father, which is good because that's where we all want to be one day. So he's trying to phrase the fact that, yo, Juliet's dead in a positive way. And Balthazar then says, "I laid her low in her kindred's vault, and presently took post to tell it to you now. I'm sorry for bringing you these ill news." And Romeo says, "Then I defy you, stars," because remember, they are called often star-crossed lovers. And so the star-crossed lovers means that they are fated to not be together. So when he says, "I deny you, stars," he's denying the fact that the stars are preventing him from being with Juliet. So Romeo asks Balthazar again down here on line 33, "Hath no other letters to me from the friar?" And Balthazar says no. However, we know that Friar John was sent by the friar to tell Romeo about the fact that Juliet was going to fake her death. So Balthazar saw Juliet being buried, which is true. What he did not know was that Juliet was not really dead. So he's just telling Romeo, "Hey, she's dead." And just kidding, she's not. But Romeo thinks she is. And he tells Balthazar to hire those horses. I'll be with thee straight. And then says, "Oh, Juliet, I will lie with thee tonight. Let's see for means," meaning I'm going to find a way to kill myself to be with you. Okay. I do remember an apothecary. Now, an apothecary was like the old-timey version of a Walgreens where people could get potions and poisons and medicine. Then I remember an apothecary which late I noted in tattered weeds with overwhelming brows, culling of simples, meaning he wore really bad clothes. His face was constantly scrunched up in sadness, and misery had worn him to the bones. Okay, so he is describing this apothecary that is in desperate need of money. So Romeo's like, he's going to sell me whatever I want. So moving down here, and if a man did need a poison now, whose sale is present death in Mantua, here lives a caitiff wretch, would sell it him. So he remembers that the rumors in Mantua that even though if an apothecary or a Walgreens sold poison, sold death, they would be executed. This guy is so poor, he would absolutely sell to Romeo. So he goes to the apothecary and he summons him, and Romeo says, "I have here 40 ducats. Let me have a dram of poison, such soon speeding gear as will disperse itself through all my veins," meaning the poison would go through my body quickly, "and as violently as hasty powder fired doth hurry from the fatal cannon's womb," meaning it's got to kill me quick. The apothecary says, "Such mortal drugs I have, but Mantua's law is death to any he that utters them," meaning I can die just by telling you what they are and even telling you that I have them. And Romeo says, are you so bare and full of wretchedness and fearest to die? Famine is in thy cheeks, meaning you're starving to death. Need and oppression are starving your eyes. Contempt and beggary hangs on your back. The world isn't your friend. The word's law isn't your friend. The world has no law to make you rich, and be not poor and break it and take this. So Romeo, we really see a new kind of ruthlessness to him. He's being very savage here by picking out all of the things that cause this guy complete misery and then uses it against him to get what he wants. And the apothecary consents and says, my poverty, meaning my poor status, and not my will, not my willingness, consent to give this to you. And Romeo swings it right back at him and says, well, I am paying your poverty and I'm not paying your will. So I'm paying you to get what I want, and I'm using your poverty against you to get it. So he gets the poison, and the apothecary says, put this in any liquid thing you will and drink it off. And had you the strength of 20 men, it would dispatch you straight. So this poison is strong enough to kill 20 strong guys. Romeo gives him the money and says, here is thy gold, worse poison to men's souls, doing more murder in this loathsome world than those poor compounds that thou mayest sell. So he says gold is even more dangerous, more sinful, is even worse than poison. He says greed is the worst thing a man can succumb to. And then he goes on and finishes and says, I sell thee poison, meaning the gold is your poison, and you have sold me none. Farewell, buy food and get thyself in flesh, meaning buy more food and put some meat on your bones, dude, because you are starving. So the apothecary leaves, and then Romeo says, come cordial and not poison, go with me to Juliet's grave, for there I must use thee. So he is planning on drinking the poison and killing himself beside Juliet in her grave. There you have it, ladies and gentlemen, Act 5, Scene 2. Make sure you finish your summaries and make sure you finish your tweets as well for this scene.